everyone, it's Sylvia from Fairlight Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Now, if you're a member of my membership program from the tiers Sun, Light and Up, so Sunlight and Starlight, you'll be previewing this video a few days ahead of the public, the general public, and all of the rest of my subscribers. And that is one of the perks that I give out to members of my channel. So that will give you the possibility to reach out for me if you want to acquire one of these decks. I just need to say, as always at the beginning of these videos, that I'm based in Australia and shipping overseas is quite prohibitive. However, because I understand that sometimes I'm actually rehoming out of print and rare or hard to find decks, therefore in that case you can absolutely reach out to me to my email info@fairlightwellness.com, and I will provide you with a few quotes for shipping methods so we can sort something out. But when it comes to mass market decks, especially the ones that are still readily available, I kindly ask only people based in Australia to reach out for those decks. Because it's just not convenient. If you're based in the US, for example, and you want to reach out to acquire a mass market deck that is still in print, it is definitely more convenient for you to just source it from either your local metaphysical store or Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, etc. So having said that, this is actually an indie deck, so it's the Polarcos Tarot by Carmen Sorrenti. This is a deck that I've had in my collection for only 6 months. However, I did buy it secondhand from someone who sold it on a Facebook group. It came in an excellent condition, so I've actually never used it. But this deck has been used by the person who sold it to me. It's in a 2-part box, as you can see. It comes with a introductory card. These are actually really cool backs, and I think it's just about the reason why I was attracted to this deck at the beginning. And so let's have a look. It comes with this guidebook, which is, the spine has not been broken, however you can tell that it has been opened because the pages kind of stay open this way and they do have a crease, but that's just about it. And the images of the cards are actually on a full page for at least the well, not exactly all of them. Let's say a few of the majors have the full page in full color for the cards, but not all of them. And the same goes for the minors as well. However, as I always say in this case, it doesn't necessarily matter because we have the cards, so, and the cards are definitely even bigger than the page. Now, the suits have been renamed. For example, we got Wings, we got Sparks. Let's see if there's some kind of a, well, we got Coral, and we got Spirals. Now, this deck is, let me put it this way, it's not, I don't think it's hard to find, and to be honest with you, I think it's still available, although at least, you know, today when I'm filming, I'm not entirely sure though that, you know, it's available to ship to Australia. In any case, because it is an indie deck, if you're based even overseas, you're more than welcome to reach out and inquire about this deck if you're interested. Now, I have to point out a few things. So it's obviously a complete deck. It does show, I'm not sure that I can actually point that out, but it looks like there is a very slight bow to the cards. Now, I always am storing all of my decks in the best possible conditions. This one actually came bowed this way. I have to say that I do live in a rather humid kind of area. It didn't get any worse, it just got delivered this way. There are a few, but not very visible, chips on the borders of the cards. Maybe if I do this, I can probably show you a little bit better. I think you'll be able to see that some of the cards have a some chips, very light. Let's say if the borders were in black, you wouldn't even be able to notice them. I think that these deck is suffering from some stylistic choices, you know, that indeed when you have a black border and there is this kind of cardstock, you will see chips immediately. It does say on the listing where I bought it from, it did say that it has been used. However, I don't see any kind of crease or even scratches for that matters on the cards, and this is the kind of cardstock that can get scratched. I personally only did an attempt at using it, but I kind of realized very quickly that apart from the star card, which is the reason why I bought this deck in the first place, because I love this card. It's really beautiful, very communicative, very intense. And probably also the magician card, I found it very interesting because there's, you know, there's this couple of people and another one turning away, and there's a lot of symbologies that is actually quite interesting in a not just one or two cards, but I would say in the majority of the cards of the deck. I, however, cannot bond with it. I cannot find its, let's say, perfect spot, you know, in my collection, and especially I cannot necessarily find a perfect way to use it in my practice, and there's a couple of reasons why that is, and mainly it's regarding the inconsistencies throughout the art style. I don't necessarily feel like all of the cards are cohesive, and that is a major deal breaker for me. But it's also because some cards are black and white while the majority of them are in full color, and that is no, I just, you know, when I put these two cards together, for example, my brain, it's almost as if it were encountering a bit of an obstacle in accepting that these two cards belong to the same deck. And so that is a major inconvenience for me. It's just, it's nothing personal. You know, there's another card that is, you know, black and white. And obviously when you have only a few, but it's still very possible to pull them in a spread. So obviously you will have something like this, a situation in which you have, you know, perhaps the card in the center, which is black and white, and the cards on the side that are not. It's just the way in which my brain is wired. And then there's also other inconsistencies between the way in which the artwork has been filled. So for example, in here we see that there is a fullness to the image, whereas in here there's a lot of use of the lack of color, for example in the white areas. And again, this is not in any way to diminish the work, the really gorgeous work of this artist. I mean, look at the images are absolutely fantastic. So there is a lot of skills here. I am not talking about that. It's just that because of the way in which my brain is wired, I do sometimes struggle when I see these kind of things, these kind of inconsistencies, simply because they just tend to distract me and they lift me off a reading. And that's all there is to it. So generally speaking, I always give a reason why I want to rehome a deck. I can assure you that it's not something that I do easily. I always try, so I really do take my time with the decks, and you know, I try and understand why they're not resonating. And when I actually find that the reason why they're not resonating is not something I can work on, because of, you know, neural pathways are not that easy to change in many cases. It requires a lot of time and effort, which is something that I'm willing to do, but perhaps this deck doesn't give me that kind of motivation in order to do that. And needless to say, there are some of the cards here are absolutely fantastic. So, you know, I'm not trying to, I really, again, fantastic work. It's just not for me. That's all there is to it. I think we're all adults and mature in order to understand these kind of things. So this is definitely going to be rehomed to a new lovely person who's going to actually appreciate this deck a lot more than I did, and is going to use, and they're going to use it. So this is the, as I said, Polar Coast Tarot. Let's have a look at the next one. So the next deck is also an indie deck. I believe it might be out of print now. Even when I acquired it, it was already out of print. I, however, know someone already who's been reaching out to me, one of my members, saying that they might be interested in this deck. So before, I'm just gonna show it to you because of course I'm gonna get back to this person and ask whether they're still interested. If they're not, just in case they're not, then this deck is going to be rehomed and it's available. As I said, because it is an indie deck, and at this point I would reckon that it's also not that easy to find. You know, you're welcome to reach out to me and ask whether it's still available, even if you're based overseas. It's the Abyssal Tarot, based on the photography by Shelley Corbett. It has been written by Stephen Albom, and it's I think this is number 633. I don't know out of how many copies, to be honest. So this is, I actually was familiar with Shelley Corbett's photography even before I acquired this deck. And these are the backs, by the way. It does come with a guidebook. It's not a chunky one, as you can see. It's really, let's say, stripped to the bare minimum. So it does show a small thumbprint in full color for at least for the mages, but I believe it's also for the minors as well. Yes, it is. And as you can see, for all of the cards, it's got the same length of description or text. And these are actually quotes. And for example, here, well, the devil is quite gruesome, so let's move to perhaps the star. There you go. She beacons in a glowing stream of cosmic light. Before her, a great collapsing supernova pulls the surrounding matter, plasma, and energies into the infinite. All that exists has become one. From Agnes. And then it gives you a couple of keywords like enlightenment, inspiration, creativity, awakening, honesty, optimism, achievement, hope. I believe there might be also a bit of an introduction to the cards on how to read the cards, and also perhaps also a couple of spreads. So indeed we see the path through the abyss. This is the spread that is recommended to use with this particular tarot deck. And then we also have, for example, a couple of very interesting notions: positions and their meanings, direction and their tendencies, the suits and the attributes, the court cards and the rules, minor numbers, so a bit of numerology as well. So this is a very interesting approach, especially when it comes to positions and meanings and directions and tendencies. I actually have to say that I've never seen them before. So we got, for example, West with intuition, sensitivity, empathy, and love. North, left, symbols, icons, idols, heroes, art, creativity, and handiwork, and so on. And when it comes to directions and their tendencies, we've got West, left, and East, right. So West left is with spaces, uses fantasy, feeling, holistic, etc. And East right has patterns, names, reality, logical, detail, factual, verbal, etc. So this is a kind of an interesting way to present the cards, obviously. And we got a little bit of an introduction about this this particular deck. So it says the Abyssal Tarot was designed to showcase the collected work of over 10 years of Shelley Corbett's hauntingly beautiful photography. But it is also a tool of meditation, contemplation, and divination. Let these images engage your unconscious, and they may reveal new, unexpected paths of awareness and understanding. I agree 100%. I mean, Shelley Corbett's photographs are indeed hauntingly beautiful. Hauntingly beautiful is the key word to her art, because I do believe that these photos, by the way, there is nudity. I have to warn you. These photos are, the technique behind them, being a photographer, I actually know what it takes to take photos underwater like these have been. And I can assure you 100% that it's not something easy to, especially because this deck, I believe it's from 2004. Let me see, 2005, sorry. But obviously these photos, you know, they reflect the work that has been done in the previous decade. So we're talking about, you know, a few years ago, let's say 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, you definitely did not have all of the GoPros that we have nowadays that make it so very easy to take photos and videos underwater. So obviously these needed to have a very specific kind of equipment and gear, you know, in order to be able to take these photos. And I recognize that, as I said, I have been working in photography for a few years, so, and I have been a passionate photographer for many years, and so I do understand what it takes to achieve something like that. But it's just not resonating with me, and I believe I've actually said this before, you know, about this deck. It's such a pity that I'm not using it, and I do believe that it should go to someone who actually does, because it's one of those decks that it's actually very unique, and I believe that it needs to be honored for that kind of uniqueness. So as I said, there is someone already interested, but I have, let's say, I need to receive confirmation. In any case, this is the deck and I'm showing it to you, and it's the Abyssal Tarot. So the next three decks are actually mass market decks, and I believe, apart from one of them, which is a deluxe edition, I'm not entirely sure that it's actually available everywhere. The other two are available everywhere. They are all three of them being published by Rockpool. The first two, I'm just going to show them to you together because they are very, let's say, similar in concept and also in art style, because they come from the same artist, Mel Brown. And this one is the Aboriginal Goddess Chakra, and this is the Aboriginal Dreamtime. Now I have to say that this one has a big scratch. I don't know if I can show you though. Perhaps if I do that. Anyway, it's got a big scratch, quite visible on the top of the box. It came this way. I was the first and only owner so far. It came this way from Amazon, and to be honest with you, I didn't even feel like sending it back, simply because I just didn't realize that it was scratched until probably, I don't know, a month afterwards, and I believe that the window in which you can actually return something had been closed. There you go. So let's have a look at these decks. So they're very similar when it comes to, well, the art style, of course, but also when it comes to the vibe. So they have, both of them, I have to say, they have a really interesting guidebook. And obviously, you know, someone might not be comfortable with the format because it tends to be long and kind of small, kind of short, which is, you know, it opens up as if it were a bit of those older kind of notebooks that I used to use when I was at uni, for example. So this is not the reason why I'm rehoming it, but obviously you will have to store it this way, which is really not a big deal. I'm just pointing out a few characteristics of the deck. So we still have let's say, a couple of pages for each and every card. It is an oracle deck, and we also have a smaller thumbprint, full color of the card themselves. When it comes to the description and the text on the cards, there's a bit of a story. So for example, for internal strength, we come to know the story of a baby wombat. If you're not familiar with the animal wombat, it's the cutest of all. We do have a few really unique animals in Australia. You all know the kangaroos, I'm sure. You all know the koalas, I'm sure. But wombats, if you don't know them, please check them out. Google them because they are really cute. They basically look like a you know, a small size bear. However, let's put it this way, they're very cute and they're huggable and they're amazing. However, they can get a bit aggressive sometimes, especially during the mating season. So if I feel like, you know, as Australian, I need to warn you, if you come to Australia and you want to hug a wombat, you actually can, but always supervised. So we come to know the story of this wombat, and I cry for his mother. It's kind of really sad, but it does give you a bit of an atmosphere. It tells you of, you know, because it refers back to the keywords, which are internal strength. So obviously it gives you a bit of a story behind it in order for you to also be able to visualize the card and the vibe of the card itself. and then it gives you the Dreamtime message about this particular card. So find your inner strength, believe in yourself, and work through the situation. Sometimes you do not realize how much power you have, and if you are not careful, you can end up destroying everything in your path. So it's a very beautiful message, and I have to say these cards are really beautiful. I enjoyed using them. Let me see what the status of the deck is, because this deck has actually, or is it this one? So between the two of them, this one has been used more than the Aboriginal Goddess Chakra. I have used it a few times, you know, to pair it up with the other decks. It's just right now, it's been a while that I have reached for it, and it's also true that there are some cards where the title is not necessarily intuitive. So in my case, you know, going back and forth all the time with the guidebook at the beginning is always very nice, but when I noticed that whenever I stopped reading with this deck, I stopped using it, I wasn't necessarily remembering all of the meanings. And you know, it also, because when you have a large collection and you have a lot of, like in my case, I also have not just tarot decks, but I have a lot of oracle decks. And remembering every single concept behind all of the cards is not easy, especially when you stop using them. But it's a really beautiful deck. Now, it's got some kind of a very special, unique way of showing the cards. So I don't know if I can, yeah, I can probably show you already from here without zooming in too much. There is this is a photo. So the background shows a photo in, let's say, obviously that has been manipulated in the color. And then you see this painting on top of the photo. And each and every card is exactly like that. So even though you can see it more or less in some cards and you can't see it in others, but it definitely starts with the concept of a photo, almost turned to black and white, or in any case very dark. Probably because it is called the Aboriginal Dreamtime, so it really wants to give you that state of trance one find themselves in when they're dreaming. And then there is, of course, this artwork that is painted on top of the photograph. Really beautiful deck, really beautiful art style. And I really enjoy that particular way to obtain these images. And as I said, it's in pristine condition because I tend to be very careful whenever I use my decks, whether it's a mass market deck or an indie deck, doesn't matter. When it comes to the Aboriginal Goddess Chakra, so what we see here is another beautiful, let me just get it out of the box, another beautiful guidebook, which has the same concept, so it opens the same way. And again, we got a very similar kind of setup, so you've got a thumbprint in color. And then we've got a bit of the description, for example, of what the card is referring to. So the purple chakra fairy. The purple chakra fairy represents the brow chakra or third eye, and is located at the center of the forehead. So I love that there is the description of the chakras, for example. And you got a little bit of a description of the image on the card itself. So in this case, we got the Lady of the Lake, which is the keeper of Excalibur and the voice of the goddess during the times when Avalon existed on this earthly plane. She is the mother of Sir Lancelot and great friend of Merlin, and so on and so forth. So this one, I actually, to be honest, it's one of those decks that really did not connect, even though I really love the artwork, and I'm just going to show you now. First of all, I thought it was because of the borders. The borders are there for a reason, because then you'll be able to see them and immediately know the association with the chakras they are referencing to. However, these particular borders don't, I don't know, it's just the way of the setup on the card. I don't necessarily like them. I really like the art style, really. So this is the particular almost puntillism kind of art style that you find in very traditional in Aboriginal artwork. So it has been very well researched and reproduced with a lot of respect for the Aboriginal cultures. And I have to say the keywords are very intuitive as well. I have to say this is actually more intuitive than the Aboriginal Dreamtime Oracle, but for some reason it just did not resonate with me. Probably also because we do have, so it talks about Aboriginal Goddess Chakra, so it's a bit of a combination between the chakra and the vibes and the meanings of the chakra and the like a number of goddesses. But it's just, I felt like there was a bit of a disconnect between these two. So that's the reason why it never really resonated with me, and I never really felt like, even though I think that this card is so beautiful, but I never really used it. So this is both of them up for grabs. They are mass market and readily available, so please just people based in Australia if you want to reach out, because it's just so much more convenient when it comes to the cost of shipping. And the last one of the decks that are going to leave my collection in January is the deluxe edition of Nicola McIntosh's Crystal Grid Oracle. And the reason why I'm rehoming this deck is because I actually have 2 copies of it. So what happened was that this deck was actually released by Rockpool, it's also a Rockpool deck, a few years ago, but not in the deluxe edition. Then what happened was that Rockpool just reprinted it, I think a few months ago, not that long ago, and they reprinted it, they added a few cards, and then they named the new product, let's say, deluxe edition. What happened was that I saw it on Amazon. I bought it from Big W, so in a store. I bought this one. Then I saw it on Amazon and it had a different cover. So I thought I was buying from Amazon the original, and I really wanted to compare these two, knowing that I would have kept only one, because I had heard about a different cardstock from the first edition, which is totally possible because Rockpool has changed their cardstock lately. But Amazon, they sent me the new one, so I have 2 deluxe editions. So, and I'm still missing the first one. I don't think the first edition is actually available any longer. In any case, this is, as I said, a mass market deck. It's actually a really beautiful deck, very informative. I know nothing about crystals, and I do know a little bit about grids, in the sense that grid follow more or less a lot of, let's say, astrological and alchemical directions and guidelines, and in many cases there's something that you can recognize in the way in which you make sigils as well. So there's a lot of common knowledge and common traditions in the practice of making grids. If you're completely new, this is an excellent deck because it gives you a lot of information. And again, I haven't used this one at all because it was a double. And but you do have in here, in the guidebook, you have the explanation of pretty much anything you need to know. And it's also very much fun to use because it does give you an exercise as well. So I like this one, for example. This card is called the Crossroads, and it's a very important card for me because I also bought this from the Oddities and Curiosities Expo. So this is a jar which contains, it's a jar, it's a spell jar containing barley, red peppercorn, juniper berry, and cypress. And it's based on, the energies that you need when you're facing a crossroad. Now, crossroads are very important for me in my life. I've been at the crossroads many, many times, and I really believe in getting all of the support you can when you find yourself in a crossroads. So when I saw that jar, I immediately bought it. And I have to say that this is also the card that I looked at when I was looking into buying this deck, and I found the description of the crossroads. It's really interesting, and that was what convinced me to get this deck. So it talks about the fact that you're always torn, how to trust your own intuition, So it's these kind of crystals are supposed to protect you whenever you're taking a decision, when you're facing a crossroads. And there is the exercise, which is actually very interesting. If you are at a crossroad, a good exercise to do with chiastolite or staurolite is to meditate and picture yourself walking up to that crossroad. See on the signposts the options or roads you can take. So visualizing the options. Do you feel a certain pull towards a specific path, or do you get the sense to not go down a certain road? That actually helps a lot. I can assure you 100%. So it's a very fun, very beautiful, also visually very striking, I have to say, deck. If you don't have the budget to buy all of these crystals, then I can tell you they get very, very expensive, and you will need hundreds in order to be able to do all these crystal grids. So why not using a deck, for this particular reason? And this is also very, because it's the deluxe edition, it's a very nice gold gilded deck, and it's got a very silky, smooth to the touch, tactile feel to the finish of the cardstock. So yeah, as I said, very beautiful. I actually particularly love the backgrounds of these cards, because it looks like they have been, it's like a work of art with watercolors, and they always remind you of the shades of the crystals that you're using. It's a chunky deck, so it's got over 70 cards. So you've got pretty much everything covered, I would say, when it comes to these decks. And I have to say, this deck is the only one that I actually pair up with the tarot as color. So the tarot deck, tarot as color, which is, it's a splash of color in every card, very abstract. But this one, it's almost as if it was actually bringing it down to earth. As a matter of fact, let me just show you how it works, because I believe that visualizing the way in which you can actually work with the deck helps you decide whether you want to get it for yourself or not. So let me just grab the tarot as color deck. So this is the deck I was talking about, tarot as color. It's a huge deck, really big, like super big. And it's not a deck that even the creator has admitted that it's not necessarily a deck you would want to use for divination. It's more likely to be apt for meditation. But I do like to pair it up with the Crystal Grid Oracle. I really do believe that it works. Somehow, perhaps even just one. Sorry, let me just do this, because I actually believe that it works a lot better in the non-traditional way, or the non-popular way, to pair up a tarot and oracle deck with the oracle in the center and the tarot on the side. If you just focus on one card at a time from each deck, it's actually even more communicative, and you can still do this as an exercise in meditation, for example, but you can also use it for journal prompting. And I don't necessarily believe that it's still apt for divination. But our practices should be varied. I mean, we don't read tarot and oracle just for divination. As a matter of time, in my case, I only use it for divination when I read for friends, clients, and myself. But most of the time, I'm actually using tarot and oracles for my personal practice. So as you can see, there is this sense of almost as if there was a bridge between those two decks, and this bridge is consisting of the particular strength and the power coming out of the colors. So this is a very powerful, let's say powerfully colored deck, very saturated, very strong colors, almost primary colors in many cases. And this is a deck that instead is more towards the pastel colors, but there is this kind of communication between these two, perhaps just because of that. And this is just on a visual level. So when you look at the aesthetics, and then when you are ready to get into the meanings of the card, so we've got the full card in here, and the manifestation card from the oracle. So obviously we look into the potential of the Fool to manifest this journey that they're going to embark upon in order to be able to perpetuate that cycle of life. And it's a beautiful idea, the fact that the Fool is actually manifesting, because the Fool is always seen as someone who's not necessarily an expert in whatever it is that they're doing. So manifesting is seen as something that we need to reach as an achievement, as something that we need to focus on, something that we need to practice in order to be able to do it. However, when you look at the power and the strength and the faith of the Fool, that is definitely a manifestation of their inner strength, their inner intuition, which you don't necessarily need to exercise in order to manifest. So as I said, these two pair up really well together, and I feel almost as if, you know, this is probably the only oracle that I feel really comfortable in using with the Tarot Escola Tarot. Because I tried many other pairings, but it just doesn't really work. I haven't tried yet to pair it up with the Color Mage, which I recently acquired, so perhaps this will pair up really well with the Color Mage. I mean, I did try a couple of times, but I didn't really get into it. But this could be another one, you know, to try and pair up with the Tarot Scholar. In any case, the Tarot Scholar is not available for rehoming, but the Crystal Grid Oracle Deluxe Edition definitely is. I don't think, as I said, so this one is, I believe, is readily available, but not the first edition of this deck. I'm not entirely sure. So that was it for today. These are the decks that are going to leave my collection for the month of January. Not that many, but it's also true that after a big haul that I have for Christmas, I actually didn't acquire many decks in the month of January. The first couple of weeks, or the last couple of weeks in December and the first couple of weeks in January. It's true that I'm waiting on so many Kickstarters, and they're being delayed because of the holiday period, which is fine, it's normal. But I kind of feel like, okay, I'm not gonna buy anything new because I know that in a couple of weeks I'm gonna have something like an avalanche on new decks, which is going to keep me very, very busy. So yeah, I guess that's it. So thanks so much for staying with me till the end of this video. More to come. Have a great day.